online this year in this crazy time of a pandemic. It didn't seem like the best thing to be out asking for your donations in person. So instead, we're here online and taking the opportunity to spotlight some of our members. And I'm here with a few of our longtime members, Richard McCracken and Jaime Wells. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Great.
We're good. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
The right person won the election.
It's been a very news-filled weekend and week for sure. So tell me a little bit about your history with Taos Search and Rescue as an organization. We were just talking off air. Yeah, you both have been involved since the 1990s, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the late 1990s. Jaime from 98 and myself from 99. And Jaime was a training officer for about 4 years, and I was president for, I don't remember, 7 or 8 years off and on, maybe 10, and training officer, and also was an incident commander, field coordinator for quite a few years earlier. Yeah, and so we've been on a lot of missions. We've been to a lot of trainings. We've given a lot of trainings. It's been a really good experience, actually, to be on this team and to meet the number of people that we've seen pass through our team, and some are still quite active, and also all the people we meet around the state when we go on missions. It's been quite an education.
Why has this been something that you've stuck with for a couple of decades now? Why? Tell me why this has been a priority in your life for so long.
You want to answer that?
Sure. Well, for me, I joined because I loved the outdoors, and actually I loved going hiking at night, backpacking at night, believe it or not, and that was something we do in search and rescue, a fair amount of, and it was a great opportunity to learn a lot of new skills, and to serve the community doing things that I like to do, and it was a good bunch of people. So that's why I joined and why I've stayed with it.
Have things changed quite a bit over the past 20 years?
Yeah, a lot, actually. There are fewer missions, for one thing. People, with the advent of wider use of GPS units, is one example, and now with cell phones, smartphones actually have built-in GPS units and mapping programs and so on. So far fewer people are getting lost or calling or need help. They can call in and say we're going to be late in many cases now. So in some cases, some of the past missions have been you show up and the person's already come out to the trailhead, for instance. Mm-hmm. Not a lot, but it's a significant amount. I think the reason I liked and still like being in search and rescue are several. I second what Jaime said about liking to hike, and just to get out and to explore different areas in the state. We've been all over the state, way down south, and we've actually been into southern Colorado a little bit, and out west, Mount Taylor, and further west all the way to the Four Corners area. So you get to see a lot of the state, which I enjoy. I think also the service to the wider community, not just Taos County, although that's where we're based and where we do much of our work. I think service to the state in general. We perform a really needed, service that other organizations do not provide. Only the state search and rescue organization actually sends teams out to actively look for people in the state. So we're much needed, and we've done a lot of rescues. We've saved people's lives once in a while, and certainly made a lot of people less miserable.
I also would like to chime in too. I like the way the search and rescue is organized in this state. It's an incident command system, so that we're actually under the state police, who give us mission numbers and certify that it's an actual mission. And then we have an incident commander. There's several officers under that, for planning, logistics, communications, and then they call in teams from all over the state So you get to work with a lot of different people, which is interesting. And also the whole process of working with groups and under a command system, it takes out it makes it more of a community effort, and it's not so like I'm the one that has to find it, the person or whatever. It's just whoever finds it is great. We've all contributed, and it's it's a group, it's a team. It's you have to be a team player, to want to be on search and rescue.
Makes it more of a systematic machine rather than like a bunch of people playing cowboy.
There you go. That's good.
And you both bring some considerable and notable experience to our team. I wonder if Richard, you're pretty well known in the climbing community. I wonder if you could both talk a little bit about your background that you bring to Taos Search and Rescue.
Well, I was dirtbag climber back in the day, actually. I started climbing in the mid-1950s in Yosemite Valley and climbed many years there. Did some first ascents on big walls like El Capitan and North Face of Half Dome. Did first ascents in the Northwest Territories. Climbed a lot of mountains around this country and climbed in Europe some as well. So that's a technical background. And just generally living outdoors type of background that I brought to the team. I have been the head of the high angle team, which is our technical rescue unit, for quite a few years. Chris Cody has taken that job over now, pretty much. I'm still technically a member of the team, but I'm less active now. But I was sent to a training in Ouray, Colorado a number of years ago on specifically how to rescue, which I had not had a lot of experience actually with that directly, although I've involved in helping people on cliffs sometimes. So I also had that experience now to add, and now Chris has taken the same course, and we've been training people for a number of years now for a technical unit, and we're doing pretty well, I think. And we're the only team in the northern New Mexico that has that expertise. There's one in Santa Fe, one in Albuquerque, and one in Las Cruces. So that's my experience I bring to the team.
How about you, Jaime?
I'm strictly a ground pounder. I like my feet touching the ground. So okay. I'm not on the high angle team. I mean, no, actually, I have been on the high angle team, but just as a support, not someone to go over the edge. And it was very interesting trainings, learning about systems like 3-to-1, 9-to-1 systems, 27-to-1, how you could set up a system of pulleys and ropes that just maybe two people could haul something very heavy, with enough changes of direction and rigging and stuff. And so that was very interesting. As a training officer, I would give trainings in low angle and medium angle rescue. We learned how to change directions. Like if you're on a slope that's just a little too steep for just carrying a litter with people on each side, we might set up a pulley system, on a tree or rock, with anchor, and but then you'd have to do changes of direction, because around here, of course, the train never goes just one way. So you have to raise and lower and that kind of thing. It's just very interesting learning and learning, reading maps and finding points on the map and, navigating to that point with a compass and map. We have obviously GPSs, but batteries do run out, and I like the real hands-on thing with a map,
Sure.
And a compass. I guess I'm old school.
Have you seen, we were talking earlier about how the number of missions has gone down as the number of GPS enabled devices that people are carrying around in their pockets and on their wrists has gone up. I wonder, over that same time period, has anything changed in the amount of missions we're seeing that require a high angle or technical unit? Has there been any change in that regard?
I don't think really there has been. Technical rescue doesn't happen that often. If you do one or two a year, then that's more usual than the standard type of mission where you're simply out looking for people. So I think in that respect, there hasn't been a big change.
People's climbing skills aren't getting any better.
I think down in like Albuquerque, where they have, more of a climbing scene, they have more technical rescues down there.
I was thinking more
back
locally.
in the Sandias. Here, we don't have that much high. Although there was that mission a few years ago where Richard and Dave Austin, who was on the team at the time, had to rappel off the bridge, the Gorge Bridge, to rescue a guy who had been climbing illegally a wall, one of the sides of the canyon, and he knew he was going to fall. So instead of falling backwards and really killing himself, he jumped and wound up, breaking, I think, his heel, broke a rib and punctured his lung and a few other things. And so we got called out for that. So Richard did do, that was quite a high angle rescue because it was rappelling off the Gorge Bridge about 2/3 of the way down.
It's pretty good drop.
Yeah.
That's the most technical one I've been on, actually.
Do not try this at home.
Right. And it was in the dark, too. Well, they had spotlights.
And how often are we seeing the high angle technical team being used, maybe not to help out climbers that have gotten themselves into trouble, but people that are just stuck in the gorge in a position where there's not an easy way out? Is that happening very much?
It does happen some. Again, not a lot, but the skills in a high angle team can be transferred to rescues along the river. For instance, we do have a water team now that's specifically dedicated to anything concerning the river or lakes. But the high angle team can take part in that. And actually, team members belong to more than one of our units anyway. Many people on the high angle team are also on the whitewater team, as it's called. Whitewater people have skills in kayaks that the high angle team wouldn't have. These skills can be spread around and used in different instances. I think last year we had one technical rescue over by Abiquiu, beyond Abiquiu and Coyote on the cliffs there. It was actually, unfortunately, a recovery of someone who didn't survive. This year, I believe we haven't had any of that sort, but I haven't actually been on any missions this year, so I'm pretty sure we haven't.
It's been a very unusual year in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's made a big difference.
Yeah. I'm curious, just over the past 20 years, what are some of the highlights for you, whether it's been like, missions that stick out in your memory or particular trainings or anything like that?
We had one mission up on U.S. Hill area. I don't remember exactly where it was, but a guy was out on his dirt bike with some buddies and zoomed up this hill and lost it and went over backwards, and he wound up, I think, breaking his back. So we got called out for that, and we did have to set up a low angle rescue. Putting him in a vacuum splint, which is this splint that's full of these little styrofoam pills that you kind of mold around the person, then you remove the air rather than inflate it, and that forms a really hard shell but comfortable around the subject and stabilizes them. And then we load that into a litter, tie that on, but we did have to do a low angle rescue there because it was a steep enough hill that we didn't want to risk, just holding it manually and, possibly somebody tripping and dropping the subject. And then we had that one rescue up by Lost Lake or No Name Lake up below Truchas Peak. That was at night. This guy had broken his ankle up there, and his buddy, they were camping, and his buddy came down and they did a call out, and we had to hike up there with a litter. We have this litter with a big fat tire, and it goes over logs and rocks and streams really easily, and packaged this guy out. He was quite big and tall, longer than the litter, and quite heavy. Every time we tell it, he gets heavier, but he was at least several hundred pounds. And
he was over 200.
He was over 200 anyway. Excuse me. But the trail going out was, it was on a mountainside, so it was steep above this teeny little trail and then steep below. So trying to have people on the sides of the litter was pretty tricky because you either were sliding underneath the litter or sliding down the hill.
Oh, yeah.
And then, it was a steep enough trail that we would have a rope behind it so several people could act as brakes by pulling on the rope so it wouldn't go too fast. That was in the middle of the night. And
not using their body as the brakes.
Right, yeah. Not like for the tire.
Not being speed bumps.
Yeah. So,
yeah, we've had over the years a number like that for sure. I think other things that stand out in my mind are just seeing people when you arrive where they've been stuck or they've sprained their ankle or have just been lost and not known where they were and stayed put, and being hypothermic or whatever, the relief that they exhibited. And not everybody reacts the same way, but most people are really happy to see us show up, because it made a big difference in people's lives. And we've had people contribute to the team, extra money to the team because they're so thankful. Although, of course, we only take money from during our fundraisers like this one. It's the only time we get funded throughout the year. And but once in a while, people we rescue or help out from the wilderness will send money to us. Some very large amounts too. One person dropped $1,000 on us, I think, too many years ago.
There was a rescue. This is before we joined the team. There's actually a film about it. I think it's called Miracle in Taos, and it is a reenactment of a mission where this family was hiking up toward Serpent Lake and Jicarita and got separated, and then the little guy got separated and wandered off, and they called the team out, and they found him actually in a stream, unconscious, unresponsive, and they wrapped him in their jackets, dried his clothes, or put dry clothes on him, and the one person had him in his jacket, and by the time they walked out, he had warmed up enough so he was conscious again. But I remember a number of years later, then when I was on the team, we had a fundraiser, and I was sitting with one of the team members that found him and rescued him, and this man came up and he dropped $1,000 check on us and said, and he was in tears, and he said, This is for rescuing my son who just dropped out of college, and I'm so happy he's alive to drop out of college. And everybody was crying. And Del Dubois, who he was on the team then, he was on that rescue, and everybody was crying, But it was just, It really made a difference, his life.
What do you think are some of the most common mistakes that you see people make that wind up in a mission call out?
Well, quite a few actually. Well, being unprepared to spend the night there is what it boils down to. Sometimes these people hiking up to Williams Lake or even climbing Wheeler Peak with very little or almost no equipment, maybe a bottle of water sometimes. I've seen people in flip-flops. If a rainstorm comes along or it starts snowing, and they get caught, then they're really not prepared for it. So just lack of preparation is one of the big mistakes that people make. Another is not being aware of where they are as they go along on the trails or off trail, whatever, keeping track of, which way north is, how the slope runs, where the exit points would be if trouble happens, that sort of thing. Just kind of being generally unaware. It can be a big learning experience for a lot of people. I think those are two of the main things. And people just make honest mistakes and get stuck too. I mean, anybody can sprain an ankle, and then it's hard to hike out, and they may not have a ace bandage with them so they can wrap their ankle.
Right.
People should always have what we call the 10 essentials, and not we. I mean, that's a standard thing. You can go on the web and just Google 10 essentials, and they give you a list of everything you should have with you: food, water, a small first aid kit with an ace bandage is a good idea for sprained ankles or whatever. And a bunch of other stuff.
Rain gear,
maps, knowing you don't have to have a GPS, but it can be very useful. It can save your life sometimes.
Also, it's important to leave a note, like on your car dashboard or something, or let someone know that you know that where you're going and when you expect to be back, so that if you're not back, then they can call for help as well.
The GPS thing is kind of an interesting double-edged sword, because it's obviously helpful for clear reasons, but I've also gotten myself into trouble. I carry around a GPS that has a really detailed amount of maps on it, so much so that it'll show roads that probably haven't been roads in 34 years. And so I'll end up following a trail that winds up not being a trail, and then I'm just like kind of on a ridge, just me and a couple of deer. And hasn't been a problem yet. But the key to that is then to let somebody know where I am should the worst case scenario strike in a situation like that.
Yeah.
So technology can cut both ways, it seems to me.
Yeah, just not knowing one's own limits, because we've had rescues of people that have hiked up to those ridges, and or actually one was even with an outfitter who took them on a hike that they weren't in shape for, and wound up having to get rescued. That was when we had a horse team, and we had this one horse. He was just totally amazing. We were at night going up this mountainside, this trail, and there were coyotes howling and thunder and lightning, off in the distance, and he was just straight on ahead. He didn't flick an eyelash, and we wound up, putting the person on the horse and bringing him down for a while.
A good thing people can have is something called the Spot. There are other devices that work like that, costing different amounts. But it has a button you could push that says either I'm okay or I need rescue, and it gives the location to the satellite that reads it. And this can be sent to an email, it can be sent to friends, it can be sent to phone numbers and so on. We've been called out with a couple of those up here, not too many that I remember. And that works pretty well if people are willing to spend the money and learn how to use it, which is very easy actually. But it also can get you in trouble. There's one case in southern New Mexico where somebody was really lost and stuck, and he pressed his Spot. Team came in and rescued him. We weren't involved in this. And so they came and found him and led him on the way out. And about a month later, decided he wanted to go back in and figure out how he got lost. And he got lost again.
Oh, no.
So I'm not sure it helped him a lot.
Interesting. To kind of wrap things up, what are some things that you wish just the general public knew about Taos Search and Rescue? What do you think it's important for them to know about our team and what we do?
Well, I think that we're always there. We're on call 24 hours a day, the whole year round, no time off. Everybody's on call on the team. Not everybody can respond, but there's usually a number of people can respond no matter what. I've gotten up from a Thanksgiving dinner once, I believe, and gone on a rescue. So I'm not the only one. I mean, this happens. So we're always there. You can depend on us to be there. It doesn't cost anything. You don't get charged for anything. Unless you need a private helicopter ride, then, if you're injured enough to need a helicopter and we can't bring you out on a litter, then that can cost. If the National Guard comes in, when the National Guard does work with us, and they have Black Hawks, and they'll come in and land in a field and load our litter into the helicopter and fly off. That doesn't cost anything either.
Yeah.
So generally, it's generally a free service. People are afraid to call us sometimes because they think they're going to get charged. It's absolutely not true.
Yeah. And the other side of that is that we get no public funding whatsoever. We're entirely dependent on donations from the private sector. Also, many, many years that I've spent shaking a can, in front of the stores for a weekend once a year that we usually used to do. I'm always amazed at how generous our community is and how people really, really appreciate and respect our team, search and rescue in general, and our team, and you find people that there's no way they would ever be, out in the woods needing our services, but they give and they support. So we've always, had a lot of support that has enabled us to meet our annual budgets and purchase gear and equipment and insurance and maintain our vehicles for the following year. So hopefully that will happen this way. It's trickier.
And we've seen some donations rolling in this weekend already, but we're not quite at our goal. So hopefully, folks watching this, if you made it all the way this far, you're clearly very interested in what we do. So please continue on to learn a little more. Go to SAR-Taos.org, and there you'll find the different ways that you can give, whether it's through our GoFundMe page, just sending us a couple of bucks via PayPal. And then we've got some really cool auctions going on right now that you can reach through that site too. That's SAR-Taos.org. Richard and Jaime, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us, and thank you for all your service over the years to this organization. We really appreciate it, and I know much of Northern New Mexico does as well.
Well, thanks to all you and all our teammates and our community, because we wouldn't be here without our community support.
Indeed. And hopefully the world will become a little more normal as time goes on, and we'll be able to get together and see each other at some trainings in the near future.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Take care.